Hello, everyone. Forest Focus as England stink up the City Ground against Senegal. We'll discuss Thomas Tuchel's miserable night and Morgan Gibbs-White's mixed one, plus the latest Nottingham Forest news in the company of, first of all, Michael Temple. Temps, morning, how are you?
I'm okay, mate. A little bit dull last night, as we'll get into, but yeah, back at it today. It's a cricket day.
Lovely stuff. Matt Davies-Adams, good to have you back. How are you today?
I'm all right, Matt. Yeah, really good. Thank you. Enjoying a little bit of a break until this weekend at least.
What's happening this weekend?
Do you not know? I mean, goodness me, the women's under-19 Euros kicks off.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were talking about either Club World Cup or the under-21s or something else that's going on. It never stops, does it? Always making money. Right, let's talk about England first of all, and then we'll get into some transfer chat. Temps, you were there. Talk to us about, we'll get into the game, obviously, kind of the fan experience, what it was like. Big shout out to Forza, obviously, for their TIFO, for Viv Anderson. Great work from them. What was it like having England in Nottingham in general?
Great tribute to Viv Anderson. I thought that was real nice. And the presentations to the former Forest players that had earned their caps, the 30, 40 minutes before kickoff was probably the most entertaining of the night. They had DJ Tony Perri, who did a lot of work at Trent Bridge, whipping up the crowd. The pyro, the fireworks, everything was there to entertain the kind of family audience that was in attendance. So a really positive experience for the fan. I think the City Ground somehow felt different, didn't it, Matt, with the LED and the manner of the pre-show and just the way they go about their business. A long pause for national anthems and team photos and getting the flag off and everything else. I thought it was a really, really good occasion. Nice mix of some of the England diehards in the lower Trent, the Senegalese support in the upper Bridgeford stand, and then a few people, I'm sure, watch England for the very first time on the banks of the Trent. So really, really positive fan experience until we got into the match.
Did you go, Matt, by the way? I didn't ask.
I didn't know. I watched from home. But it was really cool, wasn't it? Just to see the City Ground in that sort of unusual context, a weird sense of pride, I felt.
We'll talk a bit. We don't normally discuss England games, but as it was in Nottingham, we all watched it. What did you make of it, Matt?
Oh, standard experience watching England, right? Pretty much utterly joyless, very difficult to take any positive from it. What I would say, and as England fans, we're always kind of slow to do this. I thought Senegal were really good, excellent, really well organised. So they've got some really excellent footballers. Ismail Assar, I think, is brilliant. Jackson can be good in his day too, and lots of others as well. But it looked like what it was, which was a June international with a lot of really tired players, some really strange team selections. I think that's 96 and out for Kyle Walker, certainly. But on another day, that Bellingham goal doesn't get ruled out. Probably should have stood. It's 2-2, and we're talking about, that was quite a fun game for a friendly, wasn't it? Rather than England in crisis, what's Thomas Tuchel doing kind of thing. So I think you can be a bit quick to judge it, and the context is that it's a friendly that comes at the end of a long season, which ultimately, if England do well in the World Cup, which starts a year today, nobody's going to remember last night's game.
It was a fun game. I think mostly a fun game because Senegal were good and England weren't, I thought, Temps. Where are you at on Tuchel? Matt references the World Cup's a year from now. It feels like he's got a lot of work to do to me. Are you worried already about him?
Tuchel will be judged in major tournaments, as Matt said, and that'll come in North America next summer. But he's got a long way to go. There's 6 games until that tournament. And what I saw last night was one of the most disorganized football teams I can remember seeing at any level. I thought the formation was confused. I thought there was quite obvious dissent between the players and the manager's plan. You could see the frustrations of those being chucked out of position to probably finish the game with 4 number 10s whirling around behind Ivan Toney. I think the bizarre experiment of playing a past his sell-by date Kyle Walker with 3 promising but quite green defenders in a back 4 failed. It just seemed really, really disjointed. And I think what you're looking for your managers to do when they see that the plan is going awry is to make in-game changes to rectify it. And I don't think any of the changes that Tuchel implemented materially improved the England performance. And yet, if Anthony Gordon slides that one at the back stick, we're probably 2-0 up and manage the game in a slightly different way. So we will forget this if England go on to do well in the 26 World Cup. We should credit Senegal because you can see why so many of those players have found themselves playing at a higher level in Europe, why they're having this unbeaten streak, how organised they are, how structured they were, how drilled they were in terms of the runners, anticipating the timing of some of the long balls which were being sprayed from deep. They were very, very efficient and took their chances really, really well. But there's pressure on Thomas Tuchel already. They won that from these summer friendlies. It's an opportunity for a manager to establish his credentials, to go through the motions, but you have to try and win. And I think to have, even in a friendly, right, to have Jude Bellingham and Cole Palmer and all these clear starters in major tournament football used in such a peripheral way is not the way to engender yourself with the support. Excuse me, my phone's ringing. Let me just get rid of that for 1 second. Yeah, I was really, really disappointed with the way that Tuchel went about last night. I'll get over it. But yes, so many things went awry.
I've not heard a landline ringing forever, so that was that was nostalgic even in 2025. So thanks for that. Were you we were all in one camp or the other. Were you a Southgate in or Southgate out man, Matt, by the time he left?
Oh, by the time he left, I think he'd overstayed his welcome by a couple of tournaments. Unfortunately, I think what he did for the England national team generally was revolutionary, in that people used to look for any excuse to get out of England squads, and people wanted to play for Gareth Southgate. But harsh as it is, I feel like the writing was on the wall after the Euro 2020 final, which in a lot of ways kind of killed my love for the England team, not just because of what happened on the pitch, but everything that happened around that game I found pretty depressing. But obviously what happened in the game sort of exposed his tactical limitations, I think. And then I think we saw those writ large at the World Cup and at the last Euros as well. Saw Daniel Storey of this parish replying to a tweet from the Athletics' Adam Crafton yesterday about what was the last time you genuinely enjoyed watching England. And Dan said quarterfinal against Ukraine in 2020, played in 2021, that weird Euros. And you think about even the 2018 World Cup, 2020, England didn't really beat anybody of note in any of those games, did they? So it's not like we're coming into this off the wave of playing brilliant football and beating the world's best to get to this stage. Southgate was good, but he'd reached his limit basically in 2020, I think. And it was right to try somebody else after the last Euros final, which, I mean, it was a year ago, wasn't it? Remember how terrible England were for the majority of that tournament? The style of football was atrocious. Yes, we got to a final, but we were easily beaten in that final, I think. So yeah, his time was up, but he did a brilliant job. And you see the difference with him and Tuchel in that Southgate quickly grasped what international management is, and Tuchel's brand new to it. And it is a steeper learning curve than I think many people assume it would be for a manager who's won league titles in Germany and won Champions League and Club World Cup and everything else. International football is slightly different, and Southgate quickly grasped that, and it doesn't look like Tuchel has yet.
How much value do you think you should be placed on what Southgate did in terms of making the shirt a bit less heavy, establishing a rapport with fan and media as well? I think that's really important. That's as big a part as onboarding the players, right?
Yeah, I think so. But the problem is that Tuchel's not particularly interested in that. He's here for one tournament and that's it, and then he's gone. So anything about engendering, relationships with the media or supporters or even players to an extent, I don't think that's particularly in his remit or of interest to him. He wants to get what he thinks are the best players to try and win one tournament, and then whether we win it or not, he'll be off.
You know him to some degree, or you've interviewed him regularly, Matt. So before we move on away from Tuchel, what are your thoughts on him, having interviewed him quite a few times?
I really, really liked him, I thought. And I know all the Chelsea players absolutely loved him as well, with the notable exception of Romelu Lukaku. But everybody else loved playing for him. He's got a real cult of personality about him. He's a massive guy. He's super imposing. And he is really respectful, courteous, nice man. But if you ask him a question he thinks is daft, he will let you know in no uncertain terms. And I think he has the respect of players immediately. He came in at Chelsea following Frank Lampard, who was also ultra popular with that squad at the time. And he quickly got to grips with that and made them his squad and his players. And they ended up winning the Champions League in that season. So I think he's definitely got the CV to be an England manager. The only thing that would concern me is that maybe has his style of football aged out a little bit in the same way that kind of Jose Mourinho's did, or maybe we thought Pep Guardiola's had last season. And the evidence of that would be how he stumbled to one league title at Bayern and then lost another one, which is kind of unheard of, right? And there is most recent jobs in club football. So there's definitely a question mark about whether his style is suitable to international football in 2025. But as a kind of personality manager and dealing with people, he's excellent.
What did you make of Morgan, Temps, when he came on?
Some exceptional touches from Morgan. Hard to get into a game at that stage. I was glad he got the minutes that he did. I'd hoped he might start. I think he could have certainly sparked the crowd more into life. He was the one getting the attention pre-match. Every time he stood up to warm up, there was more than a ripple of support for Morgan Gibbs-White in the ground last night. I don't think his best position is left wing, but every time he got on the ball, he looked to be positive, looked to affect things, wasn't taking easy options, had some real nice interplay with Eze. So as per our chat pre-match, I think he's in that squad to stay. Whether or not he can cement the 10 spot is another thing. So it may well have been a worthwhile experiment, seeing how impactful he can be from wide, but had a few nice moments. And if he'd have drilled in that half volley with the left foot, I think that would have been another spark in the game that could have turned the performance in England's favour. So really impressed with Morgan Gibbs-White. Looks very at home in that kind of company, and I hope we see him starting matches for England sooner rather than later.
Morning to everyone who's watching, by the way. I should have said that. Jared makes a good point as well. The left back did stand out. I don't know if we buy him. I hate buying players just on international football. Nikola Jurkan springs to mind, and probably a few others, but he did do well. So good to have everyone with us anyway. On Morgan, Matt, I thought he was at fault for a goal, so he didn't do himself any favours there, which might cost him if Tuchel isn't sold on him. But in general, I also thought he did very well on the ball. What was your take?
Yeah, he was lucky with that goal that Miles Lewis-Skelly and Dean Henderson were also at fault to some extent. So I wouldn't pour it squarely on Morgan for that. But I thought he was the player who came on and looked like the shirt wasn't heavy on him. He looked like he was enjoying it. How much of that was down to the City Ground factor, I'm not sure. I'm reading far too much into his post-match interview where he said playing at my home ground, which I take as meaning that he is going to sign a new contract at Forest and he'll be here for the remainder of his career. But yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Like Guy said to you yesterday, Matt, he's got Jude Bellingham in his way. He's got Cole Palmer in his way. It's going to be difficult for him to get regular starts for England, but given the amount of athleticism and energy that he brings to a game, you would imagine that's going to be really useful in the stifling heat that the World Cup is going to be played in next year. So if he has a season for Forest, hopefully, or whoever, like he has the one just gone, I think he's nailed on for a place in the squad, if not a regular starter.
Lovely. Right, let's move away from England and on to a few other bits. But just before we do, just a final reminder, potentially, the Sex Pistols expose is coming up on the 14th, so a few days away now at the NAV. It's a 3 to 8 daytime gig, so make a day of it at the NAV. Get your food, get your drink, and have a good, I can say evening, good afternoon and evening there. Right, let's talk about a few other bits then. Ross Wilson, Forest sporting director and chief football officer, busy man. He's been linked with Newcastle as their new sporting director. According to the Mail, recruitment specialist Nolan Partners are leading the search for Paul Mitchell's replacement. He'll leave at the end of June after less than a year in the role. I don't know if you're overly familiar with Ross Wilson, Temps, from your work or anything else. He seems very respected. I've not heard anyone say a bad word about him. He's done a good job and he's got Premier League experience. It feels like he'd be a big loss for Forest if he went, wouldn't he?
Be a big loss, both in terms of the infrastructure around the first team and the facilities and the planning that goes into that. But I think more pertinently in the manner in which we've bought and sold players in the past few windows. You look at some of the big hits that he's had fingerprints on, Milenkovic, obviously, Elanga, Elliot Anderson, Callum Hudson-Odoi. These are players that we managed to sign without too much competition that now find themselves on shortlists the world over. So I think that role has become increasingly important as the manager becomes a coach, this figurehead behind the scenes. You can be trusted to make big decisions with large amounts of money that affect the prosperity of your football club becomes increasingly important. And I don't think there's anybody over the past 18 months that's taken their club from position A to position B in quite the same manner that Ross has at Forest. So inevitable that big clubs come looking. I was surprised to see his name linked with the Huddersfield role as well more recently. But if he is to leave Forest, it's for a mega project. I think Newcastle is a particularly interesting one because the finance is there, but their relative lack of commercial income means that there's a similar PSR challenge, and he'd have to operate in the same kind of spaces that he has in Forest. So understand that interest. Hope we manage to keep him because he's presided over some of the most successful transfer windows in our history, and it would be a massive loss to the club if he was to move on, despite the presence of Edu in the background now, which may or may not change the manner in which he has profiled in some of these big decisions. So completely unsure as to how that dynamic will play out and if he's actively looking to leave, but understand off the back of the job he's done why others would be interested.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough job to potentially turn down. I know he's Scottish, so I don't know about his family situation, the Champions League and everything like that. I don't think you're a fan of the Newcastle ownership, Matt, and all around that, but just on Wilson and that job, is this part of the success that we have? Inevitably, it feels like everyone's coming for everyone at the moment with our players and now our people who are engineering all this.
Yeah. Look, I think, as you say, I'm not a fan of the Newcastle ownership. I think if you think working for Evangelos Marinakis is tough, and I'm sure it is, I'd suggest moving to a club owned by a nation state who, according to Amnesty International, executed 88 people between January and April of this year is probably not a great idea. What I would also say, and at the end of the day, it comes down to, if Newcastle offer him double what he's on at Forest, then he'll go, just like anybody else would. But Newcastle have already cycled through Paul Mitchell and Dan Ashworth in that position. Word that Paul Mitchell struggled to get on with Eddie Howe. Dan Ashworth thought that moving to Manchester United to be an executive would be a better move in their current state. So that would be a red flag to me if I was Ross Wilson. On the face of it, you move into a Champions League club. As you say, it might be closer to where his family are, but it's a position which has proved difficult for people to last long in under their ownership. So you might have an eye on that as well. But he's clearly a really talented fella. As Temp says, we've gone from 30 signings, thrown a lot at the wall, seeing what sticks, to really measured, excellent recruitment over the last 18 months. And to get somebody in to oversee that with the success that Wilson has done is clearly not going to be easy. So I'm sure Forest will be doing all they can to hang on to him, and hopefully they can.
Sticking with football administrators, the absolutely thrilling topic that it is. Dane Murphy's been appointed CEO at Charlton, so I thought I'd mention that after he did a good job at Forest and the season got promoted, obviously. And sticking with that time, Steve Cooper is on a 3-man shortlist for the Middlesbrough job with Rob Edwards and Danny Roll as Sheffield Wednesday manager, apparently. A good move for him, Temps. I feel like he maybe should just go abroad or be Wales manager at some point or something. Another championship job. It feels like he's taking a few steps down the ladder, or is it what he should do to rebuild his reputation?
Well, I think Dane Murphy's a football man, and you look at the influence that he had at Forest. He presided over the promotion season and started the evolution of that football department. I think it's fair to say that would be his specialism, as opposed to the kind of operational, commercial dealings of the club, which not much of our listenership would be too interested in, I'm sure. So Steve Cooper is not going to get a Premier League job at this point, is he? He needs to create one for himself by taking an aspirational championship team and getting them to the top tier. So I understand why, after what happened at Leicester, that's the route for him to get back up there. I'd back him to motivate a group of younger players to overachieve. I think he'd need some support in the background in transfer windows, as he had at Forest. But if the tools are there in terms of a squad of 16, 17 capable players, he'll motivate them, he'll coach them, he'll get more out of them than most. So I will always follow Steve Cooper's career. He gave me one of the happiest of years supporting Forest. This is his wheelhouse. This is his strength. And if you're a Middlesbrough supporter, you can back him to improve your side.
I am revising my opinion upwards of Cooper ever more for the first 2 seasons at the club. I know it fell apart a bit in the second one, The third one, sorry, but the first two to get us up and keep us up was pretty extraordinary. You do an EFL podcast, Matt, and feel free to plug it. You can tell us a bit more about Middlesbrough and if they're a good fit for him as much as anything.
Yeah, thank you. It's called What the EFL. I would think that Middlesbrough is probably the perfect place for Steve Cooper to go, to be honest, because of Steve Gibson. By and large, he will love working for an owner who will back him to the hilt and give him as much rope as he needs, which is not something clearly that he had at Leicester and clearly toward the end of his time at Forest as well. I think it's probably just enough out of the spotlight. That he's not going to be under immediate scrutiny, certainly in the national press. Obviously, he will be up there, but it's not like coming to Forest and taking over a team in the relegation zone. They finished 4 points off the playoffs last season, Middlesbrough, so they've got a decent squad. They probably kept faith with Michael Carrick for a little bit longer than they ought to have because they had a lot of poor patches during the season. They were very much a hot and cold kind of team, but you would think for Steve Cooper, somebody who can motivate a fan base, and Middlesbrough have got a really good fan base and they can be a big asset to them. I think that is the perfect landing spot for him. He'll get a few quid to spend, but not too much. He'll have a good say in what happens in terms of recruitment. He'll be given a lot of authority over the playing side of the club. Sounds like a good move for all involved to me.
Let's dive into some transfer chat. There's a fair bit of Lyon in this, obviously, but just before we get to that, just a quick one on Elanga, linked with Arsenal by Tribal Football. I don't place too much stock in it. I mean, I'll ask you an Elanga one, Matt, because Temp's already discussed him. I think that'd be a really strange move when they got Saka and Wanyeri and then Martinelli and Trossard. It doesn't feel like he's the player they need. It says Forest wants 60 million. Would that be about right for you, sticking with the conversation we had on Monday, Matt?
Yeah, I love Elanga. I think he was one of our best players last season, but also, what did we pay from? About 15 million quid, something like that. He's contracted to 2028, so all the power's with us in terms of that deal. If we're going to sell somebody, and it doesn't feel like we have to sell somebody, but if we are going to sell one of our big hitters, it's better to sell somebody who we can make a big profit on rather than Morgan, who we're not going to make much profit on because of the money that we signed him for. But yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I mean, I'm not sure that's where Arsenal need to be looking at buying players. They need a midfielder and a striker, don't they? So I'm not sure how much stock I'd put in that one. I think Newcastle would be kind of a sideways move for him. I know they're in the Champions League, but I don't think we're that far behind Newcastle. I'd love to keep him. We need some backup in that area. If he goes, we definitely need to be buying a couple of players to replace him. I've kind of got my eye on us getting Tyreek George on loan from Chelsea for the season because I think he could be a really impactful player for Forest. But yeah, it will be a shame if we have to lose one of our stars from last season, but Elanga is somebody who we can turn a big profit on. So I would understand if that was the route that we went down.
What about Madueke? Mark Southerns is like, we should sign Madueke if he goes. You've seen a load of him, Matt, so tell us about that.
He's super direct. I think we saw that in the Andorra game on Saturday. I thought he was England's best player in that, but he needs a lot of chances to score goals and he's quite selfish with the ball. I'm not sure that totally fits with the way we play. I don't think defensively he's the best, but yeah, he's decent. I mean, you look at the fact that Chelsea didn't sign Jadon Sancho and the direct comparison between Madueke, who always takes people on, wants to get into the box, wants to get shots off, and Sancho is just way too tentative with everything that he does because his confidence has been battered over the last couple of years. Yeah, I think that would be all right, but I think you'd be overpaying for Madueke, and I'm not sure that he's a huge upgrade on Callum and Elanga.
Greg Oram says that Bournemouth asking for 75 million for Semenyo. That feels a lot. I mean, he doesn't have the goal record, I would say, but he is a good player. So that's a lot of money to ask for him. Jeff asked about the kid from Olympiacos, Kostoulis. I think he's going there for 40 million. Shame Forest probably can't afford him at this stage anyway, unless they sell someone. Temps, do you want to come in there before?
I just think Madueke at this point in our team is a downgrade on Anthony Elanga. I think I'm really up on his top end pace, the manner in which he can play on both sides, the understanding he has of his role when he finds himself playing as a striker. I think that he's essential to what we do, and of course it'd be exciting to have another England capped player in the squad, but it's not a move I would agitate for. I wouldn't be excited about selling Anthony Elanga for 60 million to go and find another winger. I think we've happened upon a player that we've added a lot of value to, that we've got in contract, as Matt said, until 2028, and it's probably not a deal I'd be looking to do.
Let's enter today's Lyon section, which is feeling increasingly popular on the show. We didn't really discuss Matt Turner too much with Guy Mowbray because, he sees loads of football and hasn't seen Matt Turner as much as us. I'll give Temp some credit here. I remember very early in his tenure, I think I've said this before, Temps wasn't having him about his kicking. And I remember him saying at the time, thinking, that's a bit harsh. It's only one game. But it was the first of many bad games for Matt Turner with his kicking. Here's a question for you. Is Matt Turner, this feels harsh, is he the worst signing we've made in the Premier League era, Temps, or would you put someone above him?
I've never seen a player look so out of depth in their first appearance with a fundamental lack of a core skill, which is striking a football. And I think in the American college system in particular, when you have a student athlete who will have done Olympic lifting from an early stage, eat all the right things, be so nuanced and physically prepared for professional sport, you still can't acquire a skill at 15, 16, 17. It's too late. That will never come. So watching the manner in which he took goal kicks and then kicked under pressure, you could tell that something was awry there. And I think that will be the undoing of him in the modern game, where the goalies are expected to be able to pass with long distance balls, to drill it with their laces to the fullback, to take short goal kicks and have some interplay. He's never going to be that player. So I'm sure there are far worse signings than Matt Turner, who've, we haven't even made it from the training ground to the City ground pitch. But in terms of watching someone really, really struggle week after week after week with any kind of footballing moment, and the one that I should probably reference is that Liverpool counter-attack where Mo Salah tapped it into an empty net after Turner came out and didn't head it. Yeah, I was watching him drown for a while there, and I don't think he'll ever be a starter for a Premier League side.
Yeah, I feel like we're piling in on him a bit here, or I am, because he shipped 4 goals last night for the USA against Switzerland in the first half. I've only seen one of them, and he was at fault for it, although the whole team were. They looked all over the place. Another Chelsea connection with Pochettino there as well. I'll ask you the same question, Matt. If you've got a worse name for a signing, or general thoughts on Turner going to Lyon if you don't want to join the pile on.
Lingard, Hwang, Dennis. There's 3 for you. At least we managed to offload Matt Turner's wages last season when he was on loan, so he's slightly ahead of them there. I bumped into him outside Stamford Bridge when we won 1-0 there a couple of years ago, and he was in goal and he actually made some good saves. And I had a chat with him and his wife, and they were such lovely people that I really don't want to pile in on him. But yeah, he's not good enough to be a Premier League goalkeeper, is he? I don't know what this thing with Lyon is. It is so strange, but thank you very much. John Textor and everybody at Lyon for bailing us out for the last couple of years. And yeah, this is the ultimate act of charity. So thank you.
I was half expecting Harry Toffolo to go there last Friday for something like 15 million quid.
He does seem a lovely guy, Turner, as well. Yeah, I'll throw a few names up because it did show this. The first name that came to my mind was Dennis, because we just can't get rid of him. He's gone everywhere and struggles certainly. And financially, I suppose John Joe Shelby's probably the worst one we've made. We've probably paid a load of money in wages and a fee, and I think he's just been released by Burnley after playing about 4 minutes for them last season. So yeah, lots to celebrate transfer wise, but there are some painful memories on that one certainly. Let me ask a very frivolous question about this Textor thing, Temps. Does this end up with him buying a stake in Forest, or Marinakis buying a stake in Botafogo? It's strange, the link between them. I don't know. We're wading into treacherous waters here if we're not careful, but it's a bit odd, isn't it?
I think John Textor is an excellent judge of a footballer and knows the very best bang average squad players to sign for £25 million.
Yeah, good answer, certainly. Right, talking of Lyon goalkeepers, we've also been linked with, shock horror, Lyon's goalkeeper to come to Forest potentially. UOL, a Brazilian outlet, one of their journalists, who's got a lot of Twitter followers for what it's worth, if anything, has linked Lucas Perri with Milan and Forest. He is 27 years old, and Nathan Joyce, for what it's worth, has seen quite a lot of him at, guess who, Botafogo, and he said he was the best goalkeeper in the Brazilian league before he went there, and he sounds like he's cemented his reputation. He was Lyon's first choice goalkeeper last season, 33 games, played in the Europa League against Man United, and all that stuff. So I'm sure he's a good goalie. Let's ask a proper football question, Matt. Is it an area that needs upgrading, that number 2 role for proper competition? Do you see that in Carlos Miguel or not?
Oh, it definitely needs upgrading, but I'm not sure why Lyon's first choice keeper would want to come to Forest to sit on the bench, because it's not like he's even going to get games in the Conference League. You wouldn't have thought, would you? You know, goalkeeper's not a position you need to rotate to keep people fit, and Sells was one of, if not the best goalkeeper in the Premier League last season. I hadn't heard of Lucas Perri until about 9:45 this morning. I was highly amused to see that he had a loan spell at Crystal Palace in 2018-19 without making a single appearance. So that just feels like the trolling continues here. But yeah, I mean, you know, at Exeter, Carlos Miguel made Matt Turner look like Gordon Banks. So we definitely need an upgrade on him, don't we? Whoever that's going to be. I'm more of the kind of get a veteran, maybe a couple of years younger than Wayne Hennessy, and with a bit more quality, and let them have the gig, and let them know what it is that you will be playing in the Carabao Cup. And if Matt Sells gets injured, and that's it. But yeah, I think it would be a weird one for certainly for Perry's career, if he's coming in to be number 2 when he's number 1 for a team who are going to be playing in the Europa League next season.
It's a weird spot, isn't it, thinking about it? Because not many clubs have 2 really good goalkeepers. Man City do. Chelsea, I keep referencing Chelsea because Matt's here. They've got about 5 goalies, and I'm not sure any of them are particularly good. But they've
got 9, and they're just in the process of sending Marcus Bettinelli to Man City, and now that's kind of an interesting case in point, because he's going to be the new Scott Carson, and he's prepared to accept that his career is that he never plays, he trains, and he's a really good squad member, and he gets compensated for that. His wage is more than the third choice goalie should be, because he's happy to be that person who's not going to knock on the manager's door and say, I should be playing every week. He's there to train, help the other goalkeepers out, and he's happy to do that. You know, it's a kind of really specialized position in the squad, isn't it? Not being the first choice goalkeeper, but I think you either need to be young and hungry and think you can displace the number 1, or happy to be the backup. And I don't think Perri comes into that category.
I mean, it's the best job in football, third choice goalie for a Premier League team, isn't it? I can't think there's any better, even a Championship team. Yeah, Greg, and a few people said this I've seen about Carl Darlow. He fits the bill in terms of Europa Squad League stuff. But again, so I mean, no disrespect to Carl Darlow, but he's not nowhere near Matt Sells' level, is he? He's a tough gig that we need to fill.
And he wants to play. I think he'd rather be operating in the Championship and playing week in, week out than finding himself on the bench at Forest. So that player's out there. It wasn't Matt Turner who was scouted as a potential number 1, went awry. There was a lot of unpicking, wasn't there? We've got a rock solid first choice goalkeeper who, as Matt said, will want to play in as many of these cup games as he can. Carlos Miguel, not having him, the Exeter game was one of a couple of examples where he just seemed fell short. I don't think that the Forest defence would have confidence if he was to be our backup. So there will be a goalkeeper signed. I dare say Miguel may well leave. I don't think the situation really satisfies anyone, but we're not going to drag a first team starting goalkeeper out of a side that's qualified for European competition, subject to all these shenanigans around John Textor's ownership.
Are we expecting, Matt, exactly the same from Sells again next season? It feels like he had the season of his life, and it was a bit of an outlier in terms of numbers. I mean, we're all assuming that he's going to do it again, aren't we? Is that unfair or not?
I think it's reasonable to expect that. You know, he's 33, which is not old for a goalkeeper these days, is it? He's clearly got better as his career's progressed. He's played both games for Belgium over the break. I know that Courtois had fallen out with the old manager, hadn't he? I'm not sure if that's been resolved. But yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect him. Maybe he won't be as brilliant as he was this season just past, but it will certainly be Forest number 1. And part of that is because he suits the way that Forest plays. He's not asked to play out from the back. You know, I think that's probably why Chelsea didn't go for him, because we got him from Strasbourg, who of course share the same owners as Chelsea. So you would have thought that would have been a logical move for him. But what he's asked to do at Forest is to keep the ball out of his net. And he's really good at that. He doesn't have to overthink his job. It's a perfect team for him. I can't see that there'll be a massive change in our style of play for next season. So yeah, no reason to think that that he'll be significantly worse than he was. Maybe if one of Milenkovic or Murillo goes, he'll have more to do, but I don't see that being a massive problem for him.
Last one on Lyon to round off today's section. L'Équipe reported that Textor wanted Forest to sign Rayan Cherki before he went to Man City. He was pushing him in that direction. I don't know what we can say about that. I just found it pretty crazy that he's trying to push a current France international our way, but City are quite a big draw with quite a lot of money, so I'm not surprised that one didn't happen. But I'd probably be very happy keeping Morgan Gibbs-White and not having him go to City. So it all worked out very well for us in the end. Just before, I'll ask these chaps about the Crystal Palace letter in a minute, but just before we do that, word of thanks for Ben Sales and Home Move Estate Agents. As ever, if you're looking to buy or sell in the summer sun, then check out the link in the description, and they are 5-star rated on Google, lots of good reviews, and he's a big Forest fan and a season ticket holder, so do support him if you can, and thanks for his support for us. Right, the Palace letter, discussed briefly yesterday. What do you make of the whole thing, Matt?
I think we need to know what's in the letter. I think it is perfectly reasonable of Forest to want to know what competition they're going to be playing in next year, so they can plan their summer spending and they can plan next season. If they, in the unlikely event we get a place in the Europa League, that's 2 fewer games in August because you don't have to qualify for it. You'll go straight into it. So I think it's absolutely right that they're looking for a quick decision on it, if that's what it is. If they're saying kick Palace out and put us in, then that's not cool. But we don't know that that's the case, do we? But I think it would be a dereliction of duty if they weren't looking for a quick clarification on how the season is going to look next season, because in terms of recruitment, it's a different thing, isn't it? Do you want to come and play in the Conference League, or do you want to come and play in the Europa League? And fewer games to negotiate probably affects what you do for your pre-season planning. So they're quite right to try and get it cleared up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think this whole thing, UEFA or whoever needs to really clear up and put proper procedures in place for multi-club ownership. What qualifies as multi-club ownership as well, because Palace would argue they don't have it, because Textor's not the majority shareholder and stuff like that. What do you think about it all, Temps?
Various reports from this is a tentative inquiry about whether we'll have to use a blind trust if similar circumstance was to present itself last year, to Forest willing to go to the Swiss courts and fight tooth and nail to grasp a Europa League Cup place by any means. What I would say is this: City Football Group have more than one team in European competition and have a structure in which no one is excluded from the competition they want to play in. I don't think this rule is fair and just. If an individual is running multiple solvent clubs in a positive manner, and they're both successful, let them both play in Europe. I think we all know that these blind trusts and these smoke and mirror operations that we're asked to jump through will not stop particular individuals having influence on decisions at football clubs, whether that be ours or somebody else's. So all of these rules that are designed to feather the beds of the existing European elite should be disbanded. The manner in which PSR is applied, the manner in which common ownership is ruled upon, is designed to stop new entrants into that top tier of European competition, and to preserve those clubs who were historically successful when these competitions were formed. I don't agree with it. You can see the challenges that us and Newcastle and certain others are having navigating the rules. And whilst popular opinion out there is that, Forest, the bullies are trying to undo the great work that Palace did in winning the FA Cup, they're not. They've got legal representatives who are testing whether the rules have been applied fairly. We've fallen foul of rules in the past. We might come out on the right side of this one. Who knows? It's nuanced. It's really, really delicate. But we're right to ask. But the framework in which we operate is just infuriating for a team or a group of teams that find themselves on the up.
I suppose the sticky wicket, playing devil's advocate, is if, say, Palace and Lyon were owned by Textor completely and they played each other in the quarterfinal, and Lyon are on the brink of bankruptcy and in financial problems, which if you read the press might be the case, then Textor turns around and says to the Palace manager, Lyon have got to win this because we need the money to go to the next round. This is a very hypothetical situation, by the way, John Textor's lawyers. That's where UEFA would kind of panic, I guess. So yeah, I think that's probably why it's there. But with multi-club ownership, Matt, I suppose it's here to stay, isn't it? I think I said this to Guy yesterday. The game probably needs to catch up more than trying to stop multi-club ownership in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It certainly doesn't look to be an end in sight. And in this specific example, there's already precedent in there because Red Bull Leipzig played Red Bull Salzburg in the Europa League in 2018-19. That's pretty clear that they've both got the same owners. So I'm not really sure what the argument is for Palace not to be allowed in the Europa League if something similar has already happened. But yeah, multi-club ownership, I think we all think it's a bit strange and probably not ideal. We probably view it slightly differently because at the moment, at least, we're at the top of the empire of a multi-club ownership. You know, if ever Olympiakos became more important to Evangelos Marinakis in terms of how much money or clout he could get, then maybe we'd view it differently. You know, if we were selling Anthony Elanga to Olympiakos, I'm sure we'd be concerned about that. But as we're at the top of that particular tree, maybe we think slightly differently on it. But it just feels a bit wrong generally, I think, doesn't it? And you are going to get these conflicts of interests.
Jonathan asked about any news about the 3 Brazilians. No, Jonathan, hence why we're talking about Dane Murphy going to Charlton today. It's all very quiet on that front, certainly. What last other bit of transfer rumour that I'll just say, and we don't need to discuss, but I just read Forest have been linked with Lucas Cepeda, if I'm saying that right, 22-year-old Colo-Colo winger and Chile international. So he sounds like another talented young prospect as much as anything, without me ever having even seen a YouTube clip of him. I just read a few tweets. Such is the depths I've gone to researching him at this early stage, but we'll do more if it develops. I think that covers all the main stuff we wanted to discuss today. So any other business, anything you want to add, Michael Temple?
It's 25 degrees, Notts are playing Yorkshire at Trent Bridge. All adult tickets are £10. So if you've got nothing to do tonight, or even if you have, I've got a better offer for you. Come to Trent Bridge, 6:30 start, lots to see and do. See you down there.
Oh, there you go. Lovely sales pitch. Matt Davies-Adams, any sales pitch or any other business you want to add?
He just agrees with me. Come to Trent Bridge.
Come to Trent Bridge. And the beauty of it is, you know, if you're looking for some live sporting action before that, 1:30 this afternoon, Redmile Primary School. My son's been training for Sports Day for some time. He tells me he's got a chance in the egg and spoon race after being robbed last year in what was an atrocious decision by the headmaster. So we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, I'll be there. I believe tickets are free. If you're at a loose end and you want to see some children running around, that's where I'm going to be.
Hey, Matt, what about the dad's race? What are the odds on that?
I was going to say about that. Yeah, go on.
You know what? We did that at his nursery, and it was a sack race, and I actually did podium on that, which was great. But they do a tug of war, men v women, instead at the end for this, and the women won last year fairly easily. So it's a grudge match. You know, we go again. We see if we can improve on last year. Maybe the team harmony wasn't what it could have been, but yeah, we'll hope to learn from it and hopefully we can get the right result this time.
Dad's race at your school, Thames?
Yeah. I've got a great clip actually. One of my mates pulling both his quads in the same spot. I'll share that on the Twitter account at some point.
Both his quads at the same time?
In the very same, he's leading the dad's race. He's probably 3-4 meters out in front. Then it's as if he's been shot in both legs at the same time. And the resulting injury was quite serious, like 2 tears of 2 quads. But for the benefit of the clip, he just falls flat on his face. Fantastic.
There you go. Vince McMahon at the Royal Rumble, for people who remember that. I know Matt does, so doing exactly that. There you go. What a random reference. We shall be back tomorrow. We're going to go through the whole squad and just say keep, sell or loan, and we'll do some transfer chat because it has quieted down a little bit today. Probably something mad will happen this afternoon, but that'll be with Greg, Mark and Mikey. Either we might do it live tonight or it'll be out tomorrow, and then we're going to talk a bit of Omar Richards with the Long Ball Football podcast. I'll see if there's any life left in him as a Forest player. And I'm trying to get a Lyon fan on as well, just to see how they view John Textor at their end of all that and all this business, shared business, certainly. So do join us for that. Right. Michael Temple, thank you very much.
Cheers, fellas. See you soon.
Matt Davies-Adams, thank you. Sorry I feel like we've had a lot of Chelsea chat today, but thank you for that as well.
Pleasure.
It was. Right. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. And have a good day, everyone. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.